All right, so welcome to the info session. This is for the Algoverse AI Research Program. My name is Kevin. I'm the director of the program. I can sort of walk you through exactly how the program works, as well as some like past papers and highlights, and just a good time for you to ask any questions. I can go ahead and answer them in the chat, or feel free to also unmute if you want. Yeah, so let's go get started. Um, so first, I can just do a quick intro of the team here. I'm the only one here for the info session, but you'll be working with, I guess, us throughout the program. So yeah, me and Dev will be the sort of directors helping out on the admin end. In terms of our backgrounds, so I went to Berkeley. I graduated a few years ago, and I was studying computer science. I was also very involved in the teaching and research communities. So I was the head TA and the later a lecturer for the algorithms course. And then I was also a researcher at Berkeley Rise Lab, which was doing systems and machine learning. I was specifically working on how to make CNNs more efficient at inference time. Dev is a full-time AI safety researcher at RAND. So he helps out with doing AI safety evaluations, such as like bioweapons risk, and he coordinates with the White House and gives recommendations there. He'll also just be helping out in general with running the program. Sean, Vasu, Vivek, and Kevin are four of our PIs, and Ben. We actually have some more PIs as well, but I'll just go ahead and highlight these two who have been with us for a while. So Sean and Kevin are both PhD students at UCSD and CMU, and they work on language models and AI for science. Sean, especially in reinforcement learning as well as reasoning, and Kevin often for graph machine learning, um, and also like AI for drug design and other cool applications. Vasu is a research scientist lead at Meta. So he's extremely experienced. He's been in the field for over a decade, and he helps out with, yeah, also the high level direction of our projects. His specialty is in multimodal. So he was involved in the pre-training, and he was the tech lead of pre-training for the Dino V2 model, if you've heard of that, as a vision model, and also Llama 3 and Llama 4. And he also has some experience as a area chair and reviewer. So we're really grateful to have him on our team. At NeurIPS, NeurIPS is the top tier conference in ML. Vivek is a research scientist at OpenAI. So he has helped out on GPT-5, O1, and O3, and he does a lot of test time compute and other language model stuff. He also did his grad school at Berkeley. Vasu did his grad school at CMU. And then Ben is a med student at Stanford. So any of our projects that have to do with the intersection of AI and medicine, he's sort of our PI that helps out with that. He also did his bachelor's and master's also at Stanford doing computer science. Finally, we also have a few mentors on this slide as well. So Asli, Cole, and Abby. Asli is a like full-time VC analyst at a venture capital firm. She does AI research on the side. And we met back at Berkeley a long time ago when we both TA the discrete math class together. Yeah, she did her master's and also taught the software engineering course as well. Cole is a former software engineer at Amazon, but then he quit last year to do full-time AI safety research, and he works on interpretability especially. And then Abby is a PhD at Berkeley, working on computer vision, and she's also currently interning at Google DeepMind. But yeah, that's not our team. Overall, we're really excited to teach people AI and really like mentor them in getting started with research. So yeah, definitely feel free to reach out during the program, and we'll be happy to help you out. Okay, so yeah, that's like sort of who we are in general. As for the program, I'll sort of start on a high level and break it down further and further as we go along. So starting with like the goal, like what are we trying to do here? It's a really ambitious goal. We want to actually do real AI research and make a contribution to the field. This is, yeah, a tall order and sounds like potentially unrealistic, but the interesting thing is that in 2025, especially for LM research, this actually is doable and is more portable than ever before in history, except for 2024 and 2023. Just especially because ChatGPT is so new, it's led to a lot of low-hanging fruit, a lot of like new research being spread out. So with the right mentorship on looking into the right directions and being able to find those out, as well as actually doing some like the technical blockers with like actually training the models and doing all that, you could do some actual like really cool impactful stuff. So as an example, here's a paper that we submitted to NeurIPS and got accepted last year. It's called Semantic Self-Consistency. And we're really proud of this, especially because it was also chosen as one of the 20 papers in OpenAI's paper bench. And that was really surprising. So paper bench, if you haven't heard of this, this is OpenAI's benchmark to see how well can AI replicate AI research. Because if AI can do AI research, then that's going to progress the field really fast, since you have autonomous AI agents. So what they did was they took 20 papers from ICML and NeurIPS. These are top tier conferences. And out of those 20, actually, our paper was one of them. So we were really proud to see that. Um, and yeah, if you took a look at all the other papers in that list, they were, mostly just like research scientists in the industry, a few like top PhD students. Then randomly, you have just like a team of 4 high school students who were able to also make it in there. So yeah, that was pretty crazy. Our lead author, Tim, was from Germany, just a high school student at the time, and he was talking to OpenAI. OpenAI reached out to him, and he coordinated with them for about 6 months to make the collaboration happen. So, anyways, yeah, this is just like one example of a project having like real impact. And what's really cool is that we really can do this, and that's what we sort of aim to do. So, on that note, we'll go ahead and submit to the top tier ML conferences. This is how the field progresses in general. They go ahead and people submit to these research conferences, and then if you get accepted, that means you pass like a rigorous peer review. There's a few conferences that are really prestigious. So you've got for NeurIPS or for ML, you've got NeurIPS, ICLR, ICML, AAAI. For NLP, which is natural language processing or like LLM research, you have ACL, EMNLP, NACL, ASC, AICL, column and polling. And for CV, you have CVPR, HCCV, and HCCV. I took these conferences directly from the list of conferences in Google Scholar. Google Scholar, they will go ahead and index all the different conferences based on H5. H5 is like a metric to see the impact of the conference based on citations. And so yeah, this is NeurIPS, this is ICLR, this is ICML. Or for NLP, you've got ACL, EMNLP, and NACL, and so on. There's generally conferences or workshops that happen every 1 to 2 months. And we'll go ahead and submit to whatever is the nearby upcoming conference. For you guys, if you're joining in the fall, then that'll be ICLR workshops. So this one right here, and ACL main. Since those happen in roughly December, January timeframe. For the most part, depending on your product scope. If you're doing most things in ML or NLP, you'll probably submit to one of those two. These conferences are very selective. The main distinguisher between the papers that go well and get accepted here compared to independent research or just like your average project is that the contribution needs to have genuine novelty, and that's the hardest part because it's really hard to do something that people haven't done before and that people would be interested in. Besides that, it's got to be good science. The experiments must be done really rigorously, follow the conventions, and the paper itself should be really well written as well. So we definitely can't make any guarantees about acceptances. Not even a top university can do that, or anyone else for that matter. That should make sense because they have random peer review. You don't get to choose who reviews your paper, and you also don't get to choose their actions. Worst comes to worst, they might have like a bad day and give you a bad score. So yeah, there's even been instances, for example, Jeff Dean, he's the chief scientist at Google DeepMind. He once had a paper that he submitted to NeurIPS back in 2011, I believe, or maybe 2014, forgetting the date, on knowledge distillation. And it was a really good paper. It later became actually one of the canonical works in the field. It's like really highly cited now. And Jeff Dean is obviously a really good researcher, but yeah, unfortunately that paper was also rejected. And so that just goes to show there's definitely some noise in the process. But it's generally meritocratic. So the better the paper, the higher likelihood it has to get accepted. And we have a solid track record. We've had a lot of acceptances. Our acceptance rate, it goes anywhere between 50 to 70%, compared to the baseline acceptance rate for these conferences tends to be around 30 to 50%. So we're really proud of our acceptance rate. And yeah, conferences serve as great motivation fuel. Getting accepted there would be great. So that's what we sort of aim for as like the main goalpost of the program. So I guess with that sort of selectivity, there's some nice benefits. So if you're a college student or industry grad, these conferences are standard. So if you want to go to grad school, it's really great for that. I mean, that's basically the name of the game. You want to just get papers accepted to these conferences if you want to go to grad school. Or if you want to join a company, anything with like an ML division should be fair game. So for example, pretty much any big tech company, Google, Meta, all of them, they all have AI divisions nowadays, or any sort of AI startup. So all the recent YC Combinator or Y Combinator startups and all those, they should be able to recognize this as well. and for general software engineering. Empirical evidence, I guess I can sort of talk about my personal experience um, on how, like, having this research potentially might help for that. So back when I was in college, that was when I was a sophomore, that was 2020. Even though the market was much better then, uh, I think people don't realize sometimes that actually it still was pretty hard to get recognized and like noticed by companies. So I applied to over 100 places. I didn't get a single reply. That was until in my sophomore spring, I joined Rise Lab to do some research. And from there, I finally got to get some responses back from AI startups. And that's how I eventually got my first offer and my first internship at an AI startup. And then later, once I went into quant, so later I went ahead and worked at Citadel as a quant researcher. Um, I talked about it a lot, like my research during the interviews and on my resume and all that. But another cool thing was that um, even after you pass the final round, if you pass that, uh, Ken Griffin, who's the CEO of Citadel, actually does like a final pass where he personally looks at everyone who is intended to get an offer and does like a final check for like whether or not I guess your profile is impressive enough for him. And in my case, he specifically commented on my research experience as what got me the offer. Um, so yeah, that was really nice to see. And yeah, so I guess it would be really great if you were to try to apply to one of those positions. Um, as for high school students, I guess like applying to these jobs will be, for you maybe in 1 to 3 years, but you can, put on your resume between now and then, and it's something you can keep there for a long time. Um, but I guess more pertinently, there's college apps. So yeah, but the good thing to know is that even for college apps, this is really great. Um, so actually, that's not something that I knew when I first created the program, but a lot of students kept on asking me, like sort of like, yeah, how do these admissions officers like perceive these conferences? And so I went ahead and I talked to some admissions officers at Stanford, Berkeley, Harvard, and a bunch of other schools. And unanimously, they basically all said that they recognize these top conferences by name and also how much harder it is to get into this compared to a like high school level science fair. So yeah, short story short, it would be really impressive and look really good for a college app. Um, yeah, so I guess if you've heard of ICEF or JEI, the difference here is that you're submitting uh, instead of against high schoolers, you're submitting against professionals. So you've got like Berkeley, Stanford, and DeepMind. For example, Berkeley, you can see their ACL, ICML, CVPR, or for Stanford, like clear, this is NACL but spelled out. Or for DeepMind, here are the papers that they submitted to NeurIPS last year. Um, so yeah, they're really proud of getting accepted there, and so are we. So if you were to get accepted there, that is really amazing for your future career. So yeah, that's sort of what we're aiming for. Um, so yeah, that's how conferences work overall. I guess I've been talking kind of fast. I don't know if this has been interesting or boring. Maybe yeah, I'll stop for just a bit to see if anyone has any questions. Feel free to put in the chat, or you can speak up. Okay.
Hello. Can I talk?
Oh, sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so from what I've heard so far from what you're speaking, most of the research, is it only going to be natural language processing, or are we able to contribute to other fields like generative AI or other places?
Yeah, we're pretty open to the type of research that you want to do. I would say that most of our projects tend to be NLP just because LM research is really hot right now. And so everyone's kind of working on that. But we've done some computer vision and we've done some like applied ML. So if you want to do like applications of AI to medicine or other fields, that would be open as well.
Thank you. The reason I'm asking is me and two other people have been working on a research project together. And we were wondering if we're able to work on a team inside Algoverse, but of course have some mentorship so that we're able to think, to to put it in the right direction.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, if you guys join, you guys can work together. We'd be happy to put you guys in the same team. What's the project scope?
The project is basically an empirical benchmarking on EQVAEs. EQVAE is a paper that came out recently in 2025 at ICML. It claims that there's a 7-time speed up for generative inference for fine-tuned VAE, such as I think they said DIT and some other things. And what we basically want to do is we want to validate those claims. We've already started working and started on the code base a little bit. And our specific methodology is that we want to benchmark, validate those claims, and then we also want to see how, if we could, we would want to have a standardized benchmark that we could contribute to. I feel like that's for us to get accepted into some type of good conference, we actually have to have a contribution, not just a validation. So if EQVE actually has what it's saying, then we would like to propose a benchmark for any potential new EQVE type systems that come out. And that's basically the scope right now.
Okay, cool. I mean, it sounds like you guys have actually made a lot of great progress. I think that it's good that you guys are going based off existing literature, like ICML paper. And yeah, that sounds like definitely a perfect fit for the program. So we have some mentors who can, have experience in VAEs and could guide you on like what that benchmarking might look like. Um, so yeah, I guess yeah, I would say like that's definitely within scope of the program.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. In that case, I'll sort of move on for now. If you guys think of anything, feel free to put it in the chat. But there's not that many slides after this, so it should be pretty quick to finish up. Um, yeah, so just one more slide on the sort of high level. We basically have this 3-month sprint, and we're going to try to go ahead and like do the entire research process end to end from there. So ideation, implementation, and actually submitting to the conference. That's a pretty short timeline when it comes to research. But at the same time, you'll be surprised if you really dedicate yourself to the research, how much you can accomplish. And also, we're happy to extend the project a little bit if you need to. In general, the primary driver of the research will be you guys. So this is an educational program, first and foremost. We're not going to just like do all the work for you. But at the same time, we will be very hands-on. So, the entire end process will be there. For ideation, we'll be guiding you on, finding interesting directions to shaping your ideas, giving you feedback, and turning that to something novel and feasible. During the implementation, we'll be guiding you on like, how in general to actually implement the product. Maybe look at like these libraries, maybe structure your code base this way, and maybe here's like debugging help for that. And on the paper itself, we'll also be contributing there. So we'll help revise it and make sure that it's in a good state. And that gets reflected in how the authorship gets done. So you guys, as the students, will be the first authors on the paper, but then your mentor and your PI will also be on the paper as well at the very end, the senior authors. And this should actually be pretty comforting that we are on there, because that implies that since we're on there, we care a lot about like the reputation that's coming out, since our names are also associated with it. We also want to make sure that there's really high quality work being done. So everyone's really aligned to just like do some, high quality research. And so that's like a really, nice collaborative environment. Um, so yeah, that's like how the program works overall. We'll be aiming for iClear workshops and ACL for this cohort. If you end up getting rejected, then no, that's not that in the world, because they give you some peer review. And so you can go ahead and use that as signal to revise the paper and resubmit. But worst case, if you're too busy and don't want to pursue anymore, you can go ahead and submit it to archive. Archive is the standard place where people put their ML research papers. Actually, even if you are accepted, you should also put it on archive. That's just where all the papers go. So yeah, in the case where you do get accepted, that'd be great. And go ahead and also put it there too. Um, so yeah, above all, we hope that this program, pushes you out of your comfort zone, and just compared to if you were to not have done the program, it should, significantly accelerate your journey in AI research and engineering, and for all that it's worth. But that's like, I guess, in addition to the deliverables of the paper of the project and, potentially the benefits of the conference acceptance. Okay, so the program, how it actually works, here's like the structure roughly. There's 2 phases. There's the ideation phase and there's implementation. During the ideation phase, we want to first like teach you actually how everything works. So we're not going to assume any sort of background. What even like is a neural network? How does like AI work overall? We'll go a little bit deeper each lecture, covering things like the fundamentals like gradient descent, training, neural network architectures, transformers, all that stuff. We'll also have some coding assignments, so you can learn the basic libraries as well. So PyTorch and Hugging Face primarily, and a few papers as well to get like a broad overview of the literature. So yeah, once you've learned the fundamentals, then you'll be in a good state to try to ideate with our feedback on like your ideas. So yeah, this is really hard, but it should also be really fun. I think it's a great creative exercise to be able to try to come up with something like actually novel. And I think this is the most enjoyable part of the research, at least for me personally. Um, so yeah, we'll go ahead and work together to review the literature to figure out what is like a gap. You have to have a deep understanding of what's going on, and try to isolate what is like an interesting research question that we can design a methodology and experiments to validate. So yeah, that's the goal of the first 4 weeks. Well, at this point, at the end of this, have a fully fleshed out proposal, and that proposal is what we'll go ahead and actually put into action. So we'll go ahead and actually implement it. We'll divide the tasks among your group. You should be working on both coding and writing throughout the program. Each week, we want you to spend at least a few hours, and that's like at the lower end, just doing like solo work on your tasks. So not just like having meetings and stuff, but you should actually be, actually doing research and coding and doing all that during the week. In terms of timing, our general recommendation is 5 to 10 hours per week. Although personally, I probably recommend a bit of a higher number, maybe like 8 to 10 to 15 hours a week. So 8 to 15, 10 to 15. Um, Personally, my perspective is that you should probably make this like one of your top priorities, like top one or two priorities during the semester to really like just make the most out of the experience. Because for one, it is a lot of work to actually do the project, and for two, you just learn more and get more out of it if you spend more time on it. Um, but yeah, in any case, we'll go ahead and actually implement everything, write the code, write the paper, and submit it. Um, so yeah, that's like the goal of the program overall. Here is the more detailed program schedule. I haven't actually updated this doc in a while, but this is like roughly what it'll look like. You'll have like an intro to ML and LLMs. We'll go deeper into exactly how language models work with like alignment and how to do reasoning. Machine learning, learning paradigms, models, and neural networks, data, training and fine tuning, and deeper into transformers. We also have a bunch of optional advanced videos if you already have a lot of background. So um, this list, this is currently four on the stock, but nowadays it's roughly 15 or so videos on just like various topics. So like LM agents, maybe technical AI safety, interpretability, other contrastive methods or other techniques, and other stuff like that. Then after like the sort of like learning phase and the ideation is done, we'll also still have some more intermediate checkpoints. So for example, coding up your baseline and evaluation pipeline and your method. Later, iterating on the method with small scale experimentation, and so on. We'll sort of have these checkpoints so that you're able to like really keep track and hit the deadlines. So yeah, there will be some like structure given to try to help out with that. Yeah, no worries if you don't have any prior background in research either. We don't expect any prior background in ML or research. We'll also have some guidelines on like how to do the research process overall. So we'll be very involved, like, with their mentor, you'll be meeting with them. And also we'll have some like general resources and, lectures on how to do research overall. Okay, so that's like how the program works on a high level, like in terms of like the week by week. Uh, Lastly, like if you zoom in to like the within a week, like maybe day in the life, how exactly that works is that there's two types of meetings. So on Sunday, there's like a lecture or like a lecture check-in, we call it later, where we give you some announcements and some concepts to play with. These are recorded and posted on Slack. So in case you're living in a time zone where this doesn't make sense to attend, you can skip that and watch it later. Or if you just have some sort of like emergency, that's okay too. Then starting in week 6, we'll go ahead and convert this time to be a work session and check-in. One important thing to mention is that starting in Discord, we're doing a new experiment on how we structure the lectures and the program. So in the past, what we did was we had lectures once per week, on like Sundays. And so the first 5 weeks are like 5 weeks of the first 5 fundamental lectures. However, nowadays I would say that compared to 2023, which is when we started the program, the like research process of coming up with a novel idea has been getting harder and harder because like there are still low-hanging fruit, but not as many as before. So back in the day, it would be a little bit easier to, even without the fully like set of lectures, you might be able to come up with novel ideas. Nowadays, probably you want to have some more context. So what we're doing instead is we're taking all those fundamental lectures and front loading them into week one. So week one has all the lectures. The options are, or there's going to be, lectures like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, roughly like all in week one. Um, and then in week two, we'll have like an additional set of a mixture of live lectures as well as like video recordings of just videos per research area. And this will help like speed up progress on coming up with research in a certain domain because nowadays, yeah, the domains require all like a little bit of background knowledge to be able to like really pick up. So for example, like we'll have one on interpretability. If you want to do LM interpretability, um, if you don't have any like prior context on that, it'll be hard to do research on that since you need to know things like, how exactly does the transformer work and concepts like sparse autoencoders, linear probes, maybe like polysemanticity or, you know, like the indirect object identification task, like all these other things, like, yeah, like circuit finding techniques. Um, so we'll have like a recording or a live video that will sort of give like a intro to like that field or subfield to like really help out with that. These will also be recorded, and this is just to make ideation go a little bit smoother. Okay, so those are like the lectures. The second type of meeting, arguably the more important meeting, is the check-ins. So these happen with you and your team, with your mentor. And these are typically twice per week, although it'll depend on the mentor. Some mentors like to do maybe like a quick daily stand-up. Some mentors might want to do like a longer once a week meeting, something like that. But yeah, typically it's twice a week. That's our recommendation. And we also want you to meet at least once per week with your team without your mentor present, just so you guys can like coordinate, do some pair programming. And the purpose of these meetings is just to push the project forward. So during ideation, this might be to discuss your ideas and shape them into something like novel. Or in the implementation phase, this will be to actually figure out how to do the project. So technically, like how to do it, debugging help, discussing results, and interpreting what's going on, figuring out next steps, and also in general, just making sure the project is moving forward. So getting like progress updates, like sort of like project management, like workflow type things as well. Um, so yeah, those are like the check-ins. Although we don't want you to wait until the check-ins for any questions or blockers. Like you should be doing stuff throughout the week, and if you make any progress, or even if you don't, if you just want to give some updates, you should go ahead and put it on Slack. So Slack is our like main modem of communication. It's like our sort of like centralized platform. So you'll talk to your mentor, talk to your team on this platform. If you want, you could also create an additional group chat on Discord or iMessage or wherever you want. But for at least all the program communication, we'll be putting that all on Slack. But in general, you guys should also use Slack for talking to your team and making progress like throughout the week. Okay, so that's basically everything I want to say on the basics of how the program runs. I just have one more slide, which is just like some past papers and highlights, just to show from the like program structure and all that, like what does this lead to? So yeah, basically you can take a look at some of our past papers on our website. I definitely recommend checking that out. They're currently organized based on the conference that I was accepted to. It's not super updated, sadly, so we need to really update this soon, but it's like decently updated, and you should bias towards like the more recent papers since the field moves really fast. The stuff that we did back in the day is going to be less relevant compared to the stuff that we're doing now. And when I say back in the day, I guess I mean like a year or two ago, so maybe not that far ago, but that's just like how fast the field moves. So for example, like maybe this paper, question analysis prompting, if you it did really well. So it got like 16 citations, which is extremely good. I think a lot of high schoolers, or pretty much most high schoolers ever, won't have any citations. And this was like a ninth grader at the time. Um, but nowadays, like prompting has already been really well studied since it was really hot back in like last year. So it's not as relevant nowadays compared to something more so like this one, like pause tuning. This one is more recent. Pause tuning, this aims to solve a limitation in language models called loss in the middle, where language models are not very good at processing like long context, especially losing info in the middle of the context. So yeah, this was another paper we did recently that introduced like a technique for helping like mitigate that. And so yeah, that was also pretty interesting. Yeah, overall, definitely go ahead and check out our website if you haven't already on some like past papers. Um, but yeah, beyond the papers themselves, I want to also just like highlight some like student experiences. So and cover like on a more personal level. So the first one I really want to highlight is Abe. Abe, he was a student back in spring 2024, and I was his personal mentor back in the day. And the really like the really big thing I want to highlight about Abe was that he was able to do all this and go this far with no prior background in AI or research or even coding. So during the program, he actually learned Python as he was going through it. And so, yeah, it was a really insane journey if you actually take a look at what he's achieved now. So his paper, Avenue, this one also did really well. This one also has 10 citations. It was cited by Microsoft, Google, Stanford, SAMU, Columbia, UW, and Oxford. It was accepted to an EMNLP workshop. EMNLP is like the second ranked NLP conference. Also, it was one of the 20 papers at the NeurIPS high school track, which was also pretty selective. Um, the also really amazing thing was that his research was selected for the Davidson Fellowship. So the Davidson Fellowship, if you haven't heard of this, this is like a really selective scholarship. I think it's international, maybe it's just the US, I forgot. But yeah, overall, yeah, as a less than 1% acceptance rate, there's like roughly 20 or so who are selected across all different fields. So not just AI or CS, but like, everything. And then he got the $25,000 scholarship. Um, and yeah, I guess in terms of like, if you take a look at it per category, so technology is one category. He was tied for first for the entire technology category. And that was from his research, at Algoverse. So we were like super proud of that. That was really amazing, honestly. Um, Later, he got some research positions at Stanford, MIT, and UMich. Um, for disclosure, we have connections at UMich, so we sort of helped him out with getting that position. But for Stanford, MIT, he was able to get those by himself. And also a paid ML internship at a YC startup called Mathos. And yeah, we're really impressed by that as well because it's like really hard to get internships as a college student nowadays. Getting a paid one as a high schooler was really good. Um, and so yeah, we also gave him a return offer with a full scholarship, and he did some other papers with us as well. He's been working with us ever since, and his other papers have also done really well, including one that got a oral presentation, which was like the top few papers selected out of the entire conference. Um, so yeah, his journey has been really spectacular. I just really want to highlight his case because it just goes to show that like what matters the most for like the success that you'll receive is just how much time you spend and like how dedicated you are to the project. So yeah, I can attest to that because I was working with him. Uh, like it was really nice. Every time I went to the next meeting, he always had stuff done. Like he was always, working on it. He was really dedicated. And on the night of the deadline, like both me and him were up till like 7 a.m. Eastern time because the deadlines of these conferences are quote unquote anywhere on Earth. Anywhere on Earth is like like they mean to say like the most westernmost place on Earth. So if it's like midnight and the westernmost place on Earth, that happens to be like 7 a.m. Eastern time. And so yeah, that was some fun times. We had some long nights of finishing the paper. But yeah, great things happened. So we're really happy about that. Another case I want to highlight is just Ayush and Ryan. These are two of the students from the paper that I showed on the first slide that was featured by OpenAI. Both of them got to Stanford. Ayush got in off the waitlist after writing about his research at Algoverse and the letter of continued interest, also with a letter of recommendation from me. And then Ryan got in directly. Here's also Ryan's acceptance to Caltech. Ryan, it said, yeah, the dean wrote a letter saying that faculty were impressed with his research. So yeah, really happy about that. And then here's also his testimonial as well. If you're curious about college apps in general, go ahead and check out the screenshots here. Yeah, I asked the students like where they got accepted, and yeah, made me really happy to get a lot of DMs. So Stanford, MIT, Berkeley, and a bunch of other places. So yeah, great things could happen there. As for college students, so we'll have more highlight soon since we only had one cycle so far. And in the one cycle, we've only had like 30-ish students because we only had one cohort, winter 24, for this recruiting cycle. But even then, we've had a lot of great placements. So Bardia was a freshman at UC Davis, and then yeah, so we interned at Apple. So yeah, he talked about this in the interview and his main experience. We're really happy about this because it's really hard to get into a big tech company, especially as a freshman and especially as a non-target school. So that was great. James was a freshman at Waterloo and then now is an ML engineering intern at Alpha Point. Here's the testimonial for him. Daniel and Jay both got into Optiver, which is a top tier quant trading firm. Daniel got in as a quant training intern, and Jay got in as a SWE intern from Columbia and from UT Austin. And then Sean got into Emory, or sorry, from Emory got into Scale. And then lastly, Arjun, a master's student from Northwestern, got into a ML internship at Adobe. And the other really cool thing about Arjun's case was that he met the recruiter at NACL. NACL is the third ranked NLP conference, and he got in his paper, the reason why he was at NACL was that his paper got accepted from Algoverse. So yeah, if you take a look at this screenshot's kind of small, but yeah, he mentioned that he got the internship at Adobe directly from meeting the recruiter at the conference. So yeah, I guess speaking of which, conferences, if you were to get accepted, you can go ahead and actually travel there. So that's really fun. I highly recommend doing so if you can. Um, so yeah, definitely if you can, that'd be great. Here's us at EMNLP last year, and then here's us at NeurIPS last year as well. Um, I think this year's ACL is at San Diego. So if you're living in the West Coast, especially, or US in general, definitely your opportunity to check out San Diego and also present. But yeah, that's basically everything I want to say in terms of like how the program works and the program highlights and all that. Um, I'm happy to just for the rest of the time go ahead and answer any questions that you guys might have. Um, Let me also go ahead and send the attendance link as well. Here's the form. But yeah, I have a decent amount of time, probably at least like 10 minutes to just answer questions. So yeah, let me know. Feel free to put in the chat or I'll mute. And okay, I see a question in the private chat. Sorry if this was said before, but the program self-paced or are there strict lectures Tuesday 5 to 7 p.m.? And if we have existing time commitments, is there a way to work around it? Yeah, it's a good question. So the program in general is uh, pretty lenient in terms of the scheduling conflicts because we'll ask you in the team matching form to go ahead and send in all your availability, and we'll be able to like match you on a team that has availability in the same times that you're available, and like a mentor at their times as well. So scheduling the mentor meetings, those are pretty flexible. As for the lectures in the first week, that's just really the first week. Um, that the timing, we probably won't be able to move that just because that's like a standard across the entire cohort. But they are recorded, so in case you can't make it in person or I guess live, you could watch the recording. Um, the timing will probably be like sometime after school hours, yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or something in the first week. So yeah, it might be roughly around the time that you mentioned. Um, but yeah, that's yeah, something that you can watch the recordings for. Another question in the private chat. I know it's difficult to give an exact figure, but what would you say is a rough amount of time weekly it would take to reasonably expect to perform well in the program? Yeah, good question. I personally would say like 8 to 15 hours a week. It'll really depend on your past background as well. I would say like the less background you have in coding, the more time you should probably spend because there's like more things to learn like as you go through with the program. Um, but yeah, actually 8 to 15 hours a week is like a pretty hefty, solid commitment. If you could do that, I think that would give you like a really good shot. I feel like I mean this is mostly based on just like subjective experience, but from what I've seen, I think that like a lot of the times people tend to underestimate, or sorry, tend to overestimate how much time they have. And I think that's like one of the main, um, like hard points of the program if you just don't have time to do it, even if it's clear on what to do. So I really would make sure that you have enough time for the program. But if you do, I think 8 to 15 hours a week, if you can manage that, that would put you in a good spot. Okay. Yeah, Sarita, I saw you raise your hand. You want to unmute?
Uh, Hey Kevin, thanks. So I actually have two kids who are going through this program, and I've only heard great things, so which is amazing. That has inspired me as an industry professional, right, to more to get a structured way of getting into research and neuroscience. So can you talk a little bit more about how the outcomes for industry grads, industry professionals, basically, and how you form your cohorts?
Yeah, that makes sense. Wait, so just to clarify, did you say that you had two kids who are doing the program right now?
Yes, and I've heard excellent things about. I think you're mentoring one of them. Oh, yes. So yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's amazing. So in terms of like how we can help industry grads, um, yeah, assuming you maybe want to do some sort of like transition into like a more AI focused role, I think it tends to be like one of the main benefits tends to be that in the industry, things tend to be pretty applied, and you're not really working at like the like frontier of like what exactly people are doing at the like academic bleeding edge. So it's nice to be able to like go back and look into like what are people actually working on right now, the most like pressing directions. You could be still tying this to like an industry flavor, for example. Like one thing that is pretty relevant nowadays is like RAG, like retrieval augmented generation. So you could try to still like add some industry flair. But really just like yeah, getting into like that academic top conference, like I guess like mindset's not really the right word, but like environment, where you're like really working on projects like that. It can help you transition into like keeping up to date and just like doing a project that can really help you like transition to more sort of AI focused role. Um, so yeah, we've had actually one other student in a very similar position. Yeah, their daughter did the program and then they signed themselves after for the program as well. Um, so yeah, it's actually there's been a path for that if you want to go ahead and explore that as well for yourself. And we'll be able to match you with other either industry grads or at least like people who are either like maybe grad school or worst case like senior undergrads who are in the program.
Okay, so the cohort is designed accordingly. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
And great program, by the way, for anybody who's considering it. I highly recommend it.
Thanks. I'm really glad to hear. Yeah, I'd be happy to chat more about like your kids and like their experience and all that. But yeah, I'm really glad to hear.
Hey,
Uh,
so
yeah, go ahead.
I have one question regarding the type of projects that we are going to take with this cohort, and I'm assuming that there's going to be only one paper that we are going to start and finish throughout the program, right? And like, what kind of like, how do you guys decide that who is if somebody does not have any project, how does that play? Like, do you guys do during the process, or like, how does that work for that particular thing? If we need to, if we don't have any understanding that how we should choose our topic for the paper or something like that, right? And once we are done with the paper, like if you want to continue to take on like in the next journey or whatever, like publishing new papers and what, like how does it go with this program?
Yeah, so a few questions there. Yeah, in general, most of our students will do one paper in the context of the program. It tends to be a pretty big commitment to even do a single project. So it's pretty ambitious to do more than one. Although it has happened in rare occasions if they're really motivated. As for like coming up with an idea, it's pretty normal for most students to come into the program without any ideas already, like on what they want to do. So it's during the first few weeks of the program where they like learn the fundamentals and like iterate with their mentor, where they really start to like pick up some like directions that they might want to explore in. So it's pretty normal to go through the first few weeks without that prior expectation of already having something in mind. Um, yeah. So as for like making sure that they're able to actually come up with something, we'll have some like deadlines in place so that they don't like end up like extending this for a while. Um, and we'll sort of give guidance on like what we think might be feasible. If they're like in the worst case, like in like week 5, 6, and they're just not sure, we can potentially propose some of our own ideas or do some sort of like team swapping into like another team that it has come up with an idea. So we'll have some like measures in place to like make sure they're not like week 12 and like still ideating. If that's like sort of the question you're asking on that direction. Let me know if I understood that part correctly.
Yeah, I think I'm good. Thank you so much for answering. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. I think you also asked one more question about like what to do like after the cohort if they want to continue researching.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a few options. I would say yeah, we would love to see people return. We've had some students who have returned with us. Yeah, like for some students, for example, like Tim, in that first paper I showed, he joined fall 23 and he's been researching with us ever since. Um, so yeah, if you really enjoy your experience here, that'd be great, and we'd love to see you do more projects. There could be like expanding your project scope into like something like a greater scope submission, or maybe just doing another project. If you want to like explore a different domain, for example, like maybe you did LLMs in one project, maybe you want to do computer vision in another one. Um, so yeah, we'll be able to give some sort of like partial scholarship, and we'll sort of like tailor that scholarship percentage based on performance. So if you're like really good in the program, then you can potentially get even a full scholarship to return. And yeah, we're happy to work with students and see them grow across like multiple semesters.
Okay, that helps. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, okay. Let me go and answer some more questions in the chat. So someone asked in the private chat, I was curious about how this program would work if I'm interested in mashing AI and psychology together. Yeah, it's a good question. So I will say that like um, there's maybe two directions within AI and psychology. There's either like applying AI to psychology or applying psychology to AI. If you're applying AI to psychology, the one sort of caveat I should mention is that it's hard to do research with extensive human evaluation. So, like for example, if you need to connect, like if you need to like recruit human volunteers and connect them to like an EEG headset or something like that, that's probably not going to work, or like not be feasible. Um, but in the other direction, like, taking maybe just like general principles from psychology and applying them to AI, for example, like benchmarking certain abilities, like on a cognitive level, like psychometrics, taking that to like maybe what that would look like in AI benchmarking, or maybe like psychology, like studying the mind. Maybe that's like, sort of similar to like mechanistic interpretability, like just understanding like how is the AI thinking. Um, yeah, that would be great. We've had a lot of great papers working on that intersection. Um, so yeah, if you have any more specific directions, I'd be happy to maybe go a little bit deeper there. But on the top of my head, that's probably what I would look into in terms of like that intersection. Okay. Someone asked about the. Okay, for that, I'll go ahead and answer in private chat. Uh, yeah, let's see. Okay. Okay, question: how much of a math background do you need, and can you do neuro-inspired AI? Um, the latter question about neuro-inspired AI, I think that's like pretty similar to what I mentioned in the previous question. Yeah, if it's like neuro-inspired AI compared to the other direction, that seems very doable. Like there's a lot of architectures that are loosely neuroscience inspired. For example, like they found ResNets were pretty similar to how I think it was like networks of bees operate as well, which is pretty interesting. And there's like other like more pertinent examples as well. So yeah, that would be feasible as long as we can think of a novel product scope. Um, as for the math background, we don't need any like prior background, although the more background you have, the better. It'll open more doors for types of research that you could do. So for example, like doing a project like NLP benchmark, just like evaluating some LLMs on some capability, this tends to not require much math background at all, since you could even abstract the entire like transformer architecture and still be able to perform that research. If you want to do some like intense research on like something like theoretical, for example, we have one paper on like using like information theory to try to predict hallucinations and stuff like that. That one will probably require some like more advanced, linear algebra or statistics. Overall, though, we don't require any prior background. So most of the projects, even some like more advanced interpretability projects, tend to not require much. Um, if you just like have some basic, high school level math, um, that should be good enough for most projects. Okay, question in the public chat: is all research self-funded or is compute paid for? Yeah, so the compute is all paid for. We use GPUs and API requests. So for GPUs, we use something called RunPod. RunPod is like a website they can go to that just you can rent like GPUs. Yeah, we'll pay for all that. And for APIs, we'll have like API keys that we give you to use like GPT API or other model providers. Question: are the project groups just a group of 3 to 4 that receive mentorship from one mentor, but write their papers individually, or will the papers be written as a group? Yeah, it's a good question. So I should clarify, the papers are done in a group. So the group of 3 to 4 students, they'll all be collaborating on a single project. Um, yeah, it's typically very, very hard to individually finish an entire project within a 12-week span just by yourself. So it really helps to have some like teammates like split the workload and collaborate with. Okay, on what basis do you assign the groups? Are the groups assigned, or will we need to form into one ourselves? Oh yeah, that's a good question. So I haven't actually talked too much about team matching yet. So the exact way that team matching works is that in the second week, we'll go ahead and release a team matching form. And in the team matching form, we'll ask you a bunch of questions such as your like age, experience level, like are you a college student or a high school student or industry grad? We'll ask you about your prior background in like research or ML or coding. We'll ask you about your topics of interest. So like for example, interpretability or maybe like ML plus medicine or maybe something else. Um, a bunch of other factors too, like basic time zone constraints. So Asia versus like US versus other like locations. Um, Also, like a few other things, like do you have any friends who you want to do this with? Some like motivational questions. In general, we'll take all these factors and then we'll try to find people who are very similar to you. So similar backgrounds, similar time zones, similar research topics of interest. And so we'll have like a big algorithm plus a bunch of like manual matching on our end to try to improve this process. So definitely not random. It'll be like assigned that way. And then in terms of the mentor will be placed based on the topic of interest. So if you guys are all interested in medicine, for example, we'll give you like probably a mentor that works with Ben or maybe Ben himself. Um, so yeah, that's like how team matching works. Yeah, Sarita, feel free to go ahead.
Team matching question. So what's typically the ratio of industry professionals versus high school grads in the program in general?
Yeah, industry grad is definitely our like least prevalent group. I would say it looks something like maybe like 47.5, 47.55, where like 5% of the people are industry grad. So most people tend to be high school or college students, and it's a roughly equal mix between those two. Yeah, I would say in terms of implications for team matching, what that would mean would be we'll probably be able to find at least one or two other industry grads. It depends on the cohort. For the summer, there's a lot more industry grads compared to other semesters. Um, but we'll probably be able to find at least like one or two other industry grads like within your same time zone, potentially within same like research interest. Um, but yeah, it's I guess in the case of industry grad, we are not gonna like fully guarantee that you are only with other industry grads because um, we just aren't sure if there's that many industry grads who are actually going to do the program and have like the same like basic other constraints.
Yeah, understood. That's what I was asking.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Okay, yeah, I've still got a few more minutes, so I think I've answered all the questions so far. Feel free to ask any more if you have any.
So when is the next the session or what do you the it's coming for this? Like I'm checking on the website. It's like the deadline for this fall session. It's like today, right? So I applied, but I didn't got any email or anything back. So like, how would I like assume like, do you guys contact me or do you guys like have some process? So can you please guide us through the process of the application as well?
Yeah, so after you submit an application, our admissions team should get back to you soon. They're going to be back on Monday, so probably Monday. They'll be able to get back to you, and then the process is that you'll receive an email. It will probably also send an SMS if you're from the US. And then the email will sort of give you some information on like what are the next like options in terms of start date and the process for enrolling. The enrollment process is there's like a $50 deposit that you can go ahead and submit, and that'll go ahead and just like once you submit that, automatically you'll see like the Zoom link, Slack link, and the confirmation, and all that. Um, so at that point, you're basically good to go. You can just sort of wait until the actual program start date. Um, but yeah, in terms of the upcoming start dates, I believe the next one is November for the winter. There was one that just recently started in September. Um, we're currently on the start of week 2. Like we just started today, Sunday, like the start of week 2 for that cohort. Um, so it wouldn't be too late to join that one since team matching is going to be done this week. However, you will need to catch up on a decent number of lectures. So I guess if you're able to front load that, that would be possible. Otherwise, I think the November option would be pretty good.
Okay, okay, sounds good.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. I'll go once more for any last questions. How can I apply to join the current cohort? Yeah, so I believe there's still, I haven't checked recently, but the application might still have that option there if you're referring to the September one. If not, you can go ahead and send an email to the admissions email, and we should be able to accommodate that. But I believe that should still be an option. If you just like hit the select that option, I believe that you will be able to do that. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure about that since I haven't been keeping up with the admissions recently. So if I'm wrong, just go ahead and send an email to the admissions inbox, and then our admissions team should be able to like help you out there. So yeah, it is still possible to join the September cohort if you're interested. Cool. One more question about like, yeah, when do we find out if we got accepted? Yeah, it should be probably tomorrow. Yeah, they come back to office Eastern time, US. So yeah, it should be tomorrow. Worst case, if it's not tomorrow, it might be more like maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But I guess yeah, we'll try to. I could probably talk to them and see if we can expedite it, since I know that the timing is pretty tight if you want to join the September cohort. Okay, well, in that case, I think we're good to go. So yeah, thanks for attending. Hopefully you found this pretty helpful. Definitely feel free to ask any more questions. There's like the admissions inbox if you have any admissions questions, or there's my personal email if you have any program related questions. Also, yeah, make sure to submit this like attendance form. This will give some feedback on the session, and also just to track some attendance. Yeah, thanks for attending. Have a good night, and hope to see you in the program.
Thank you.
Thank you.